I've heard gossip. The Dragon Queen. It's quite beautiful.
What does that have to do with anything?
Jon is young and unmarried. Daenerys is young and unmarried.
You think he wants to marry her?
An alliance makes sense. Together they'd be difficult to defeat.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones Season 8 prediction video. Today I want to talk about Daenerys and Jon's relationship now that they decided to take it one step further by becoming romantically involved with one another. There are a few different reasons why I think this can cause problems in the future, so I want to go over these things in this video. I also want to show you what some of the cast members had to say about this as well. My friend Doug Beck, who is a Patreon supporter of mine, sent me a clip from an interview that was released right after Season 7 ended. In this interview, Jon, Bran, and Tyrion talk about how this relationship may cause some problems next season. After I saw the video, it kinda reminded me of the same way Season 6 ended. In the Season 6 finale, Jon Snow became king in the North. Then there was a look exchanged between Sansa and Littlefinger, and this caused the community to have endless debates about what this look actually meant. And I remember a lot of people were thinking Sansa was going to betray Jon because they believed Littlefinger still had influence over Sansa. There was some tension between Jon and Sansa at the beginning of Season 7 over the decision making, but now we have a similar situation with new problems heading into the final season. Jon and Daenerys had sex, and we find out Jon is the rightful heir to the Iron Throne, instead of Daenerys. And we all remember the look Tyrion had on his face when he realized what Jon and Daenerys were doing in her cabin. So, what will happen between Jon and Dany next season? Let's see what Peter Dinklage had to say about this scene in the Season 7 finale.
It's dangerous for everybody involved. I'm sure it's good for both of them in the moment, but you don't even get the relief of how beautiful it could be or should be. It's not good. But it should be, but it's not. It's Game of Thrones. There's a long history of romance not ending well on this show.
Peter Dinklage is exactly right. Romantic relationships do not end very well in Game of Thrones. This is not the type of show where characters get to live happily ever after. But does that mean Jon and Dany's relationship is doomed next season? The first major problem they will face is showing up in the North together. Even though Jon Snow is king in the North, people are not going to be happy that he is bringing a Targaryen with him. Most of Jon's bannermen already voiced their opinion on Jon leaving the North to go and greet with Daenerys. They still haven't got over the fact that the Mad King killed several Starks himself, and I can't blame them. Sansa was also not very happy with Jon wanting to go south to meet Daenerys, and now she knows Jon bent the knee to her, which ultimately surrenders their crown in the North. Sansa and Littlefinger talked about this in the Season 7 finale.
Never asked for my opinion, why would he start now?
I can't believe he'd surrender the Northern Crown without consulting you.
This is his writing, his signature. He pledged to fight for Daenerys Targaryen. He's bent the knee.
Sansa didn't seem too angry at the time, but she did have other problems to worry about. So it will be very interesting to see how Sansa and even Arya react to Daenerys showing up in Winterfell with her dragons and a foreign army. Another problem that could arise is the fact that Daenerys burnt Samwell Tarly's father and brother alive. The Maesters at the Citadel did not reveal this information to Sam before he left Oldtown, but it's only a matter of time before he finds out. We all know Sam didn't love his father, but I'm sure he still had love for his brother. As far as I know, I don't think Jon even knows Daenerys burnt the Tarlys alive, unless Jon found out off-screen. When Daenerys came back from the battle, all she told Jon was now she has less enemies than she did before.
You weren't gone long.
No.
And
I have fewer enemies today than I did yesterday. You're not sure how you feel about that?
no, I'm not.
She didn't tell him anything too specific about who she had killed on the battlefield. So I'm also interested in knowing how Jon may feel about Daenerys burning his best friend's family members. And another reason this relationship can cause problems is because Jon and Daenerys decided to take things one step further by having sex. and there is a very good chance Daenerys is pregnant by Jon. This will add a whole new set of problems in the north. Littlefinger tried to warn Sansa about Jon being single, and Daenerys being single and beautiful. He tried to tell Sansa that they may make an alliance together by getting married, but they spoke about this in private, and there is no reason to believe anyone else in the north knows about these suspicions yet. So, the big question is, how will everyone react when and if they find out Jon and Daenerys have been sleeping together? They will probably see this as Jon sleeping with the enemy. It will be very similar to when Jon was in the Night's Watch and he slept with Ygritte, who was a wildling, the Night's Watch's public enemy number 1. It's not like Jon and Daenerys don't already have things to worry about with the Army of the Dead and dealing with Cersei and Euron, but now they might have to worry about fighting their own people. Well, mostly Jon, because the North already spoke out about Jon wanting to meet her. Now they're going to be blindsided with the fact that Jon bent the knee and took her to bed. Let's take a look at another one of these clips from the interview about this relationship. Here are a few words from Isaac, who plays Bran Stark.
What's going to be interesting is, for Bran, it's like, what am I going to do with this? Because just as everything was coming together, everyone was going to join together to fight, inevitably Game of Thrones will tear us apart once more.
It seems as if Isaac has the same feelings as Peter Dinklage. Something is going to happen next season that will cause Jon and Daenerys to break off their relationship. This actually just reminded me of something I almost forgot to say. There is another factor we need to consider. Jon is, of course, a Targaryen himself, and Daenerys has no idea Jon is the rightful heir to the Seven Kingdoms, which is something she wants to claim for herself. So we also have to think about how Daenerys will react to this news. Will Daenerys then see Jon as someone in her way of claiming what she believes to be hers? Or would she accept the fact that Jon is her family and the king, and continue to have the same feelings for him as she does now? You also have to think about if Jon and Dany will even want to continue their relationship once they find out they are related. Daenerys might not have as big of a problem with it because she used to think she was going to have to marry her own brother, although she never wanted to. But I could see her being a little bit more comfortable with this than Jon would be, but who knows? What I actually think will happen is, once Jon finds out Daenerys is pregnant, he will want to seal the alliance no matter what, even if they are related. Jon has always said he will never father a bastard and have the kid live the same kind of life that he did, so Jon would want to make sure his child is legitimized. However, it won't mean tensions won't be very high before this happens. There is one more clip from this interview I want to show you. This is what Kit Harington had to say.
I think they both know it's wrong. I think they both know it's going to cause problems. But it's that thing, when you suddenly feel that deeply about someone and you go through those events together, it's like a runaway train. You can't stop it happening.
He also knows them getting together is not good and it will cause problems. And I think the biggest problem will be Jon's bannermen coming to terms with accepting Daenerys as their queen. And you really can't blame them for being like this, considering what Dany's father had done. But I think they will realize they have no choice but to accept her at the end of the day. As soon as everyone sees the Night King and the Army of the Dead, they will probably be willing to work with just about anyone. This is something Jon realized right away. He had no love for the wildlings, but he knew if everyone was going to survive, then they would have to work together in order to even stand a chance against the dead. Sadly, I don't think they are going to spend too much time on the whole Sam and Dany beef either. Somehow I can just see Sam understanding why Dany had to do what she did. But if I try to base my opinion off what the actors said in their interviews, then I have to think something significant will happen when Daenerys arrives in Winterfell. Knowing what Game of Thrones does to relationships, I have to consider that one of these characters could die. But I don't think it would be because of the problems between them. The logical reason would be because of the Night King and his massive force. When I decided I would use this topic for my next video, I made a post on Patreon letting everyone know what to expect. And I was curious what some other people had to say about this, so I want to read a few things they had to say about Jon and Daenerys. This is what Doug Beck said. The shock of seeing Dany and the dragon should wear off fairly quickly. To me, Sam's reaction could be the most emotional to see. As far as Jon being the lawful heir to the throne, I think Jon and Dany will brush that aside, to be dealt with after the battle with the Night King. Question: How do you think Cersei and company would react to the knowledge that Jon is the true heir? I think Cersei would be surprised to find this out, but it wouldn't change her stance at all. It doesn't matter who the rightful heir is. Cersei isn't going anywhere without a fight to the death. However, this could change things with the Golden Company. This could cause a shift in who they decide to align themselves with. But there has been no evidence of the Golden Company actually switching sides. Tons of spoiler photos have come out from the battle in the north, and there wasn't any sign of new uniforms being involved, but we shall see. Richard said, I think there might be some initial distractions, but after everybody has to face the dead and sees her on Drogon, they might feel different. Plus, most of them are going to die anyway. If they want to fuss with her, she could burn them up just like the Tarleys. Yeah, you're actually right, Richard. This is how I always felt. Once they see the army of the dead, they're going to be glad Daenerys is there to help with her dragons and large foreign army. They also need to understand what Daenerys has already sacrificed to help Jon. If the North has any love for Jon, who is their king, then they should respect the fact that Daenerys went beyond the wall and put her own life in danger to save Jon, which ultimately led to the death of one of her greatest weapons, a dragon. They might try and spin it too and say the Night King would have never gotten a dragon of his own if Daenerys didn't come to Westeros, which is technically true. But we all know she did it for the right reasons. She only went because she wanted to save Jon and Jorah Mormont. She would have never done that if Jon didn't go in the first place, because Dany did try to tell Jon not to go. But he said Daenerys had no right to keep him from going, and the rest is history. Gabe says, I don't see Sam being that upset about his father's death, seeing as his dad did treat him like crap. But he could hold a grudge for his brother's death, maybe. When Jon wins the war against the Whites, I think most of everyone still alive will see him and Dany as heroes. When Dany arrives in Winterfell with the dragons, the people will see that they have a living chance of winning the war. If anybody from Winterfell has an issue, I believe it would be Sansa. But at the same time, Dany would have saved and got Winterfell back. I don't see Arya having an issue seeing that Jon is her favorite and she really believes in him. This is well said, Gabe, and I have to agree. I know some of this is easier said than done, but everyone in the North will eventually have to come and see that having Dany, her dragons, and men is a good thing, considering they have to at least win 2 wars. The Night King needs dealt with, and Cersei needs dealt with. They need all the help they can get. As soon as Bran tells everyone the wall is down and 100,000 dead soldiers are marching their way, it should start to change everyone's tune real quick. Marie Hill says, I think D&D will bypass any complexity and go for shock and awe. Arya and Sansa have become D&D's own generic version of the book characters. The same will happen with Jon and Dany. There should be some major inner conflicts between the characters, especially when Jon is told that Dany is his aunt, and when Dany finds out that she is not the true heir of Westeros. In the end, Jon will decide to keep this knowledge to himself, and simply focus on destroying the Night King, and it will be someone else who informs Dany and everyone else of Jon's real identity after the war is over. I think you're right about Jon's identity getting revealed after the war. Bran probably won't want to drop that on Jon's head when he knows what Jon is about to be up against. He doesn't need any major distractions right now. The last thing Jon needs is for this news to get out and cause problems right before the Night King shows up. They can't afford anyone walking out on them. An alliance between Jon and Daenerys makes sense. They would be difficult to defeat. If she is pregnant, they should get married. Since this isn't real life, the incest isn't that big of a deal. But I wouldn't recommend having any more kids together since they do share some of the same blood. But that's just my opinion. Anyways, how do you all feel about their relationship moving forward? Do you think something will happen that will cause them to end it? Or do you think one of them will die? How will the North and Jon's family react to Jon being with Daenerys? Will anyone try to kill one of them, or abandon their cause? And does anyone think Sam will make a big deal out of Daenerys burning his father and brother? Personally, I don't see Sam doing anything out of character. He might bring it up, and Daenerys may even apologize for it, but I don't see them spending too much time on this. Not with everything else they need to take care of, but maybe they will surprise me. What did you make of the actors' comments during those interviews? Are they trying to hype things up by having us believe their relationship is doomed? Put all your thoughts and questions down below. Thank you all so much for watching the video, I really appreciate that, and I also want to thank everyone for supporting the channel on Patreon. You have really been a big help over the months, and I'm very grateful for that. Have a great day everyone, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.